was just minding my own business, just walking through the tunnel until this red barrier came in the middle of the way. I don't know why, but I had no clue about what was happening right now. But I kept on waiting for a couple of minutes. Nothing happened. Until when something appeared right behind me. It kind of looked like Thomas, but its eyes were black and red. I knew exactly what it was, and I immediately turned around and tried to bash my way out through the red barrier. I immediately bashed my way out through the red barrier and started running. I started running fast and quickly as I can, trying to escape Thomas.EXE. I knew exactly what was going to happen if I didn't. Man, what are the odds that I would have ran into this moron again? While I was running, I ran into a couple of destroyed trains and cars that one immediately fell off right next to me. I kept on running and running. The way was blocked, but I knew there was only one way through and out of this. I immediately busted down the door and immediately kept on running. I kept on running and running, and I didn't know what else to do. I found all kinds of sort of things, but that wouldn't play well. You know what I mean. Right after I cussed, I wouldn't blink, and immediately, Ghost Thomas immediately appeared right when I went through that tunnel. That was the real Thomas. The real Thomas kept on buying me time, while meanwhile I kept on running for my life. Man, I would have battled that thing, but that thing was a train, and I immediately knew exactly how to put him down forever. And permanently. Right after I kept on running at the end of the tunnel, I immediately turned back and I saw that .exe Thomas was very slow for some reason. I knew he was fast, but the real Thomas immediately appeared. Well, I didn't know he was a ghost, so he decided to buy me time again. So I kept on running for a while. So I immediately kept on running until I turned around and I saw Thomas.EXE was right on my tail. Man, I had to run through and bash my way out through these boxes. I know I've been exercising throughout my whole life and training, blah blah blah, until I immediately ran into a turn. I saw the fence immediately, but there was another barricade blocking my way. Thomas.EXE was right on my tail, and luckily I had a flashlight on me just in case situations like this. And I immediately kept on running until I saw another train coming right towards me, but I immediately turned the gate, and that train immediately ran over. But I immediately escaped, since I can do anything. So there was another barrier blocking my way. I immediately kept on bashing and bashing through this barrier until I heard Thomas.EXE coming through that tunnel. I knew Thomas.EXE was very fast, but I don't know why he was slow this time. When I immediately turned around and checked back through this tunnel, he was immediately right on my tail. Kept on bashing and bashing through the barrier until the barrier gave out and I finally bashed through it. I immediately kept on running. Thomas.EXE was immediately on my tail. Man, the real Thomas must have beat it up Thomas.EXE to make him a lot more slow than usual. Well, I kept on running and running, and Thomas.EXE saw my number, which is same to his, but he kept on chasing me. I guess that's why he kept on chasing me, until the real Thomas kept on spawning in here, kept on buying me time until I ran into this weird universal thing. Man, I guess that's what I get for, keep using Alien X and blah 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 here and there. I immediately saw the multiverses and blah blah blah. Man, this universal room was immediately awesome. That train was right behind me, so I kept on running and running. I immediately kept on running and running at the end of the tunnel, where I saw the bridge was ready to collapse along with a couple of tracks. Man, I kept on running and running, but the bridge was ready to collapse underneath me. But I immediately kept on running right towards it like the brave and night legend I am. I finally found myself at the end of the tunnel. At the end of the bridge. Sorry. This train was chasing me, still chasing me, like this whole time. It's confusing, well, how I am. But I kept on running and found the scrapyard. I feel bad for these trains. But I immediately turned to my right and I immediately saw the abandoned scrap train. I didn't know who it was, but I feel like a familiar face was it. I think that might have been the scrapped Timothy or some reason. But thanks to Lady, she immediately guided me through these boxes along with my spirit animal. Man, I immediately sensed I knew which way to go. I kept on running for a couple of while. Man, I immediately found myself at the end of the tunnel, but Thomas.EXE was right on my tail. I kept on running and running until I found myself noticing around my surroundings that I was in a volcano. But I didn't know why and how I was in a volcano. This looked like more of an abandoned mine than a volcano, but I can tell by the red hot lava it was on the ground right where the rock, that huge rock was in it, around it. Sorry, I was, you know who I am, but I immediately kept on running and turns out I'm a lot more faster and stronger than Thomas.EXE when I noticed a couple of freight cars were heading my way. Quick thinking, I immediately went to my left and dodged the freight cars. I kept on and the freight cars bashed on to Thomas.EXE. I immediately kept on running and I found myself almost trapped and Thomas.EXE almost got to me and almost murdered me. But those freight cars weren't gonna hold it for long. So I kept on running and jumping and Thomas.EXE immediately shoved and pushed those freight cars out of his way. Man, I didn't know how strong Thomas.EXE was, but actually I did. Man, that train was on my tail, but luckily, thanks to me and Lady, we thought of a plan to stop or slightly slow down Thomas.EXE. I went over the board, but apparently Thomas.EXE has this weird thing, powers, I don't know. Well, I do, I'm just being an idiot. He immediately ran over the board and crossed over. But I kept on running and me and Lady kept on slowing down Thomas.EXE when I can finally escape. And to put an end to Thomas.EXE permanently. I immediately found myself towards the exit. I kept on going through these trains and I knew exactly where to go. I went through these trains, I went through these old abandoned train cars and freight cars and stuff that no one has used these in years. But I immediately found my train, I immediately escaped and finally put an end to Thomas.EXE's terror permanently. Thomas.EXE was destroyed right after I left the tunnel. The tunnel immediately exploded and got collapsed right after I immediately left. Man, pretty sure we would never see him again at all. Ugh.